Hi everyone, so I promised I would film this little video about some research I've been doing about triclosan. So I thought it would be good to sort of just get some information out there and just talk a little bit about why I don't use antibacterial hand soaps anymore. So just a couple things I sort of thought was interesting. It's kind of a timely topic. I've seen it sort of talked about in magazines and mentioned in a couple videos now, so I thought it'd be kind of nice to do this video. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information on sort of what my background is, so you know where I'm coming from. I have a master's in biomedical and tissue engineering. I did work in clinical trials, sort of in oncology, cancer research. So that's sort of my background. Right now, I do want to point out, I am not, a toxicologist. I am not a microbiologist, and I'm not an environmental scientist. But the reason I wanted to tell you what my background was is because I feel like my background has allowed me to learn how to critically read research papers and sort of understand all sides of the story, and I thought that's something sort of important to bring to this discussion about triclosan, especially since probably not all of you want to wade through the scientific literature, and they do use a lot of jargon in terms that not everyone is going to understand. But hopefully what I've been able to do is to read those papers and sort of put down what I feel are sort of the most important points. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of all the studies that have been done. There's a fantastic 63-page review paper that I went through that was really interesting. And I think it was very balanced, and I think it is important to sort of talk about all sides of it. So I did want to sort of touch on three main areas that were sort of the reasons why I don't use antibacterial personal products anymore. So that includes hand soaps, dish soaps, and the toothpaste. So those areas I sort of want to touch a little bit about on are possible health effects, environmental impact, and bacterial resistance. So I'll start with health effects, and this is probably the one that is one of the most controversial areas of discussion. And to tell you the truth, I have to say that there are some studies that show health effects and some studies that show that it's safe, and you could really interpret the data either way. The FDA has cleared it as a safe product, but I do want to mention, though, that the FDA and Health Canada, just because of things that are research that's coming to light now, that they are undergoing another review of it. But in the review that I read, that they did establish some safe exposure limits that they felt for adults and children, and they felt that we probably wouldn't get exposed to that amount of the chemical in our lifetime. So some of the studies have shown, if you're asking what sort of health effects that they're sort of talking about, they're talking about ones that have some animal studies have shown that in some cases there's some disruption to to their endocrine system, which is what governs your hormones, and to some muscle contraction, effects to muscle effectiveness, I guess you could say. But these are animal studies, and then there have been some studies in humans that show that there's no effect on people's thyroids, which is your thyroid is the center of one of the centers of where hormones are regulated. So I did mention that they've established these safe limits that they feel are safe limits, but what I do sort of want to point out from that, though, is that triclosan seems to be finding its way into more and more household products. It goes under a lot of different trade names. The one that I'm most familiar with is Microban. Microban, you can find it in some towels. They claim that these towels are, especially dish towels, are antibacterial. It's worked its way into fabrics, so like things like mattresses and things like that, when especially things that need to be shipped a long distance. They do have that antibacterial component so that they aren't, bacteria infested by the time you get them. So I'm not saying that, triclosan itself is all bad. I'm going to tell you there's lots of great uses for it. But the one in particular that I feel is maybe a little not as useful as the antibacterial soaps. And there's more reasons for why, I don't think we should keep using it, and we'll sort of discuss those a little bit later. I also sort of think I just wanted to point out for anyone, I've got a new baby. For any of you nursing moms out there, I do want to make you guys aware that something that's sort of concerning is that triclosan is showing up in mother's breast milk. And there was a study done that showed that there's a higher amount of triclosan in breast milk in mothers who use personal care products, as in soaps, toothpaste, that contain triclosan. To be completely fair, the way they crunched the numbers showed that it wasn't a statistically significant difference in terms of triclosan levels, but the authors did say that they found this finding a bit concerning because it was consistently higher. They basically concluded that more research is needed, and we need to examine more mothers in order to get a bigger sample population, so we know we know better if this was just a fluke or this really is a thing. But they were saying they were concerned because consistently the mothers who were using products with triclosan seemed to have higher levels of triclosan in their breast milk, which they were then feeding to their babies. So speaking along the lines of parents, so to parents out there, if you were concerned about BPA, also known as bisphenol A, being in your children's plasticware, I would say that you might want to be concerned about the use of triclosan, on your child, I guess. It's not really as much of an uproar because there are no antibacterial products that are specifically marketed to children, where there are, like baby bottles and things like that are specifically for kids, that there were some possible health effects that were cited, and because it was concerning for children, it was banned. Moms got concerned. They had BPA banned from bottles and plasticware. I sat down with a friend of mine who is a polymer chemist. We went through the BPA literature, and just like the triclosan literature, there's some literature that says there are harmful effects. There's also an equal amount of literature that says that there aren't. So I guess what they did was they erred on the side of caution, and they had BPA removed. So in that same vein, I would say to parents that, it doesn't hurt you to be cautious with your children. So, if you were concerned about BPA, I would be also concerned about triclosan. The other aspect I wanted to look at was environmental effects. So, chlorine is a compound that most urban wastewater treatment plants use to clean up the water so that it's safe for drinking. Unfortunately for us, the chlorine actually does react with triclosan to form a compound that, when it becomes exposed to sunlight, creates dioxins. So what are dioxins? Dioxins are a chemical that can be extremely toxic, and these dioxins are actually known endocrine disruptors. So they're known to mess up hormone balances. Dioxins persist in the environment for a long time, and they can bioaccumulate to dangerous levels. So why should this concern us? Well, there's chlorine in our tap water. So, we are exposing ourselves potentially to some dioxins, on a regular basis. Probably not so much because you're probably not washing your hands out in full sunlight. But, this also means that from an environmental perspective, you know, that wastewater, it does wash out into lakes and things like that. So, you know, we are essentially affecting our, you know, aquatic ecosystems around us, and, you know, the plants and animals that live in those areas will take up the dioxin and become affected by it. The other thing that is sort of concerning is that triclosan, it inhibits photosynthesis in algae. So photosynthesis, as you may or may not know, it's the process in which, you know, green plants take sunlight and carbon dioxide to build nutrients for themselves and release oxygen into the atmosphere. So why do we care about algae not photosynthesizing? Well, you may not know this, but algae is actually responsible for most of the photosynthesis on the planet Earth, because if you think about it, we've got a lot of water and a little bit of land, right? So a lot of the algae out there, you know, if triclosan sort of continues to make it out into our environment, it is going to inhibit the algae from performing photosynthesis, which could be a problem for us, you know, really down the road. But, you know, why would you want to go that route, right? The last one, which is sort of a topic that I you know, working in a hospital is sort of quite important to me, is the issue of bacterial resistance. So I read up about the way triclosan inhibits bacteria, or what is it about triclosan that makes it antibacterial. And it's kind of complicated, and I don't really want to explain it, but just suffice to say that the way triclosan acts on bacteria makes it possible for bacteria to become resistant to it, in the same way that, you know, use of antibiotics, if you don't use it properly, you know, we are developing bacteria that's resistant to antibiotics now. So in the same vein, we are now seeing there are documented cases of you know, E. coli that is resistant to triclosan. So E. coli, as you might have heard in the news, is often meat recalls and things that have been in the news, often due to E. coli. To avoid getting, you know, promoting triclosan resistant bacteria, is because I want triclosan to work when it's needed. So in hospitals, it's an effective method of combating superbug outbreaks that happen inside hospitals. So, you know, they will wash linens, patients in a fairly high concentration of triclosan, which is sometimes, you know, 10 to, you know, like 100 times stronger than what you would see in a hand soap. So right now, this is an effective way to combat, you know, superbugs. But if we continue to use antibacterial hand soaps because they're in such a low concentration, it's like not taking your antibiotics properly, right? So you could develop bacteria that is resistant to the triclosan, and that takes away another tool the hospitals currently have to fight, you know, the superbugs. And you know, one really cool use for triclosan, I think, is they're able to infuse sutures, so stitches, with triclosan. So if you can imagine, this is really useful because you know, a surgical patient gets sutured up with these antibacterial sutures, and so that wound site then is now not going to get infected, which is great. I think it's a great way to use triclosan. But, you know, let's save triclosan for the uses that we need it in and not waste it, you know, needlessly. Okay, so what can we do, you know, to help things? I think the biggest thing is just, you know, stop using those antibacterial hand soaps, dish soaps, and toothpastes. Studies have shown that good hand washing with regular old soap is just as effective as using antibacterial hand soap. So you will get just as much bacteria off your hands, you know, with just plain old soap. I do want to point out, again, to be fair, studies have shown, though, that, you know, the use of triclosan in toothpastes does, you know, does provide sort of a significant improvement you know, in oral bacteria and sort of killing gingivitis causing bacteria. So, you know, I'm just putting it out there. Personally, I don't want to use the triclosan in a toothpaste because it's something that, you know, I'm really ingesting. But, you know, if you have problems with gingivitis, you know, that is effective. That is an effective thing to use. So I don't want to say, you know, don't use it. But the big one really for me is the soaps, because it's been proven that it's not any better than regular soap. So why would you want the added, you know, the added chemical? I don't know. You know, use alcohol hand sanitizers. Okay, those do not contribute to antibacterial resistance. You know, so feel free to use those. If you guys want me to do another video just sort of explaining how is it that, you know, triclosan kills bacteria as opposed to alcohol, and why is it that one produces antibacterial resistance and one doesn't, or, you know, how is it that soap, you know, even, I don't know if everybody knows how soap works. So, you know, if you guys want me to do another little video about that, then, you know, just let me know in the comments. But yeah, so alcohol is hand sanitizers. Like if you go to a hospital, you'll see they don't use antibacterial soaps. They use regular soaps in the washrooms, and they have those alcohol hand sanitizers everywhere, because hospitals more than anywhere else are really, really concerned about antibiotic-resistant bacteria showing up, you know, in patient wards, because they need to make sure that you know, every tool that's available to them to fight infection works and works well. So lastly, you know, I know a lot of you guys love the Bath & Body Works soap, and the truth is I do too, but we love it for the scent. How many of you guys actually love it because of the antibacterialness? Probably not. So, you know, if you want them to change, you know, how they do things, if you want to be able to buy regular, you know, Bath & Body Works soap, and I don't know why they don't make a regular version, you know, but they don't. You know, just ask them, tell them each time you go, just say, hey, do you guys make it a regular version? And then what really matters is basically, you know, vote with your dollars. So if they don't make it, don't, you know, if they don't make the product that you want, don't buy from them. Money talks, right? So if you know, my channel doesn't really have very many subscribers, but if I could just get, you know, some of you guys just to spread the word, if you guys see this video and you know, you think it's, you know, a good idea, just spread the word, let your subscribers know that, you know, that you support you know, the use of regular soap as opposed to antibacterial soap, and just to see if we can mobilize enough people to stop buying from Bath & Body Works enough for them to stop making it. Let's not wait for the FDA and Health Canada to conclude their investigations, which, you know, really can be, you know, decades long, as they, you know, look at population health effects. And, you know, I don't blame them for that, because they want to know the, you know, the long-term effects. But, you know, let's try to make that a difference now. So, you know, again, just vote with your dollars and let them know that if enough people stop buying their product, they are going to change how they do things. So I think, yeah, I think that's sort of, you know, according to my notes, that's sort of all I wanted to cover. If there was any questions that you guys had, I've listed in the information box, you know, the two review papers that I looked at. I have to say, unfortunately, they're not all sort of available to the general public. You have to go to the journal, to the journal's website, and, you know, buy the journal. Or if you are you know, an academic, or if you are in university that has, you know, an electronic library that you can access, you can download these papers as well. You know, I'm not going to distribute it for free, because I'm not allowed to do that. I acquired these papers through, you know, legal means, and so for me to just distribute it freely, I'm not allowed to do that. But, you know, if you guys are interested, I'll put the citations below. You guys can look up the papers yourself. Yeah, so if you've got any other questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. Let me know if you guys, you know, again, as I said before, if you guys want another video on, you know, like how the alcohol hand sanitizers work as opposed to the antibacterial soaps, I could maybe do that for you guys at another time. Okay, hope you guys are all doing well, and talk to you guys soon. Bye!